noon. And let's see, all the board members except Mr. Nottingham. I'm sure he's on his way. So why don't we go ahead and get started? How's everyone? It is now 12:01, and I will call the January 2023 meeting of the District of Columbia Board of Ethics and Government Accountability to order. Are you all able to hear me? Great. Okay. Great. I'm Norma Hutcheson, the BEGA chairperson, and this meeting is being held virtually via WebEx. Joining me today for this meeting are board members Darrin Sobin, Felice Smith, Melissa Tucker, and I expect Mr. Nottingham, but I don't see him on the call. Oh no, I do see him. He's here. Great. We're all here. So together we constitute a quorum for this meeting. So I'd like to say Happy New Year to everyone. I hope you all had a great holiday. Since it was first posted, the meeting agenda has not been changed in any way. So I ask board members to please take a look at it. And then I'll need a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Great. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay. Any nays? I heard all ayes. So hearing no nays, the board has adopted the agenda for today's meeting. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from our December 1st, 2022 meeting. Draft minutes were circulated, and will a member please make a motion to consider approval of the minutes from December, please?
I'll offer the motion that we approve the minutes from the December meeting.
A second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded that the board consider approval of the December 1st, 2022 meeting minutes. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? No nays. Hearing none, the board approves the minutes from December 1st, 2022. The next item on the agenda is a report from the Office of Open Government. We'll hear from Director Niquelle Allen, who will provide a report on behalf of the office virtually via WebEx. Director Allen, please proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairperson Hutcheson and members of the board. I am Niquelle Allen, Director of Open Government. Happy New Year. I am pleased to present this first report of 2023 on the activities of the Office of Open Government, also referred to as OOG. Since the last board meeting, OOG has continued to fulfill its mission of ensuring that all persons receive full and complete information regarding the affairs of the District of Columbia government and the actions of those who represent them. I will begin my report with Open Meetings Act, OMA, and Freedom of Information Act, or FOIA, advice rendered by OOG. I have not issued any advisory opinions since the last board meeting. However, the office has rendered informal OMA and FOIA advice. Since the last board meeting, OOG has responded informally via email or telephone to requests for assistance as follows. OOG responded to 11 requests for Open Meetings Act advice, 7 requests for FOIA advice, and 23 requests for technical assistance with open-dc.gov. Next is an update on OOG's remote meeting monitoring. OOG's legal staff attends remote public meetings to ensure compliance with the OMA. During this process, they also inspect public body websites and the OOG central meeting calendar for public meeting notices and records. We provide legal advice on the Open Meetings Act compliance and take corrective action if necessary. During December 2022, OOG attended 15 remote public body meetings. As a result of the monitoring, one instance of written corrective measure was taken. The public body posted an incomplete agenda. The OMA requires each meeting notice to include the time, date, location, and planned agenda to be covered at the meeting. Of note regarding OOG's compliance efforts is the observed increased compliance in the area of providing notice to the public that they may address Open Meetings Act complaints to OOG. In 2021, there were 15 documents in the DC Register that contained the OMA regulatory statement. This meeting is governed by the Open Meetings Act. Please address any questions or complaints arising under this meeting to the Office of Open Government at opengovoffice@dc.gov. In 2022, there were 124 documents that contained the statement. This increase is a direct effect of the OMA training and monitoring of public bodies. The next area I'm reporting on is training and outreach. First is the 44th Annual Conference, COGL Conference, which is the Council on Government Ethics Laws. On December 4th through 7th, Attorney Weil and Paralegal Brown attended this conference in Montreal, Canada. The conference included plenary and educational sessions focused on elections, campaign finance, government ethics, lobbying, and freedom of information. Attorney Weil and Paralegal Brown attended the following sessions, from NYC's Madison Avenue to Montreal's La Man, adapting branding best practices to serve the public. Table topics: preventing corruption and collusion in public contracts, Quebec's Carbonneau Commission, freedom of information is a COVID long hauler, power and perspective, my life in politics and beyond, giving guidance in an age of shamelessness, and you call that a thorough search, privacy and public records, a look into the tension between privacy concerns and the transparency imperative for public agencies, freedom of information legislation and litigation update, annual business meeting, freedom of information roundtable, ethics update, investigations and audits, best practices for new challenges, Quebec's lobbyist registry and OECD model, a look inside, crypto cool or kryptonite, regulating cryptocurrency contributions to political campaigns, and the freedom of information roundtable. The next item is mandatory cybersecurity training. On December 6, 2022, Chief Counsel Barton completed the mandatory cybersecurity training course. I also completed the training on December 23rd, and Anthony Skirbo completed the training on December 29th. Cybersecurity training is a mandatory requirement for all district government employees and District of Columbia government contractors. The deadline to complete the training course was December 30th, 2022. The next item is OMA training for new board members and staff. On December 7th, 2022, I conducted an Open Meetings Act training for new board members and their staff. The training was conducted via WebEx and focused on OMA compliance and common issues public bodies may face. The training was well attended and members of the OOG staff were also in attendance. Robert's Rules of Order Parliamentary Procedure Training. On December 17th, 2022, Susan Leahy of Robert's Rules Made Simple presented a parliamentary procedure training for public charter school boards of trustees and their staff via WebEx. The training was informative and well received by the attendees, and the OOG legal staff also attended the training. FOIA training for the Office of Unified Communications. On December 12, 2022, I conducted an extensive FOIA training for the OUC. The FOIA training focused on the following topics: how to respond to FOIA requests, conducting searches for records, and producing records. The presentation concluded with a discussion of decision letters. The training was also well received by OUC staff, and the OOG staff was also in attendance. Mayor Bowser's December cabinet meeting. On December 14th, 2022, Director Cooks and I attended the mayor's cabinet meeting and holiday party. The meeting consisted of reports from several agency directors and included a DC One Fund presentation. Several members of the Bowser administration announced that they were retiring at the meeting. DC Mayor's inaugural gala. On December 31st, 2022, I attended Mayor Bowser's inaugural gala. The event featured a speech by Mayor Bowser with musical performances. It was held at the Anthem in Southwest Washington, D.C., and was free to the public. DC government swearing-in ceremony. On January 2nd, 2022, I viewed the swearing-in ceremony for district government elected officials remotely. The mayor, attorney general, Council of District of Columbia members, advisory neighborhood commissioners, State Board of Education members, and DC shadow representatives took the oath of office for their respective offices. Mayor Bowser, DC council members, and the attorney general gave speeches. The judicial branch was also present and conducted the oaths of office. Litigation and legislative update is next. litigation. First is the Washington Post FOIA lawsuit regarding records arising out of the Capitol insurrection. I've reported on this case in which the Washington Post legal entity seeks certain records related to the Capitol insurrection. The Supreme Court dismissed in part the Post claim number 1 concerning the mayor's email messages, but put the balance of claim number 1 concerning the mayor's WhatsApp messages and other claims in remaining uncontested mode. On December 5th, 2022, the district filed its motion for summary judgment and statement of undisputed material facts. The district argues that the withholding of 911 calls and of the autopsy report of Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick were proper because the 911 calls are law enforcement records whose public release would interfere with law enforcement proceedings. The district also contends that Officer Sicknick's family has an overwhelming privacy interest in the autopsy report. The case is set for mediation in July 2023. The district's motion and attachments are in Dropbox. The next case is Campaign Legal Center lawsuit regarding records surrounding citizenship questions on the 2020 census. This is a federal FOIA case that arose out of a proposal to ask respondents about their citizenship status on the 2020 census. It remains in the summary judgment stage in the district court on remand. The U.S. Department of Justice presented a November 29, 2022 memorandum regarding Federal Exemption Number 5. DOJ argued that Federal Exemption Number 5 protects the decision-making processes of the government agencies by withholding documents reflecting advisory opinions, recommendations, and deliberations that comprise part of a process that the government formulates its decisions and policies. These new documents and an updated docket sheet are available in Dropbox. The next items are legislation. First is the Board of Ethics and Government Accountability Delinquent Debt Recovery Amendment Act of 2022, DC Act 24-215. This law took effect on December 21st, 2022. The next is the Revised Criminal Code Act of 2022, Bill 24-0416. The mayor returned this measure with her veto to the DC Council on January 4th, 2023. The Medical Examiner Records Privacy Amendment Act of 2022, DC Act 24-720. The mayor signed this measure on January 4th, 2023, and must now go through congressional review. Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Amendment Act of 2022, Bill 24-0320. On December 20th, 2022, the DC Council passed the Comprehensive Policing and Justice Reform Amendment Act of 2022, which would have public records implications. One of the bill's subtitles would amend the Body-worn Camera Regulation and Reporting Requirements Act of 2015 and the District of Columbia Municipal Regulations to expand public access to body-worn camera footage. The bill would do the following: prohibit officers from reviewing their body-worn camera recordings and that have been shared, and those that have been shared with them, to assist in writing initial reports, establishing a process for the subject of serious use of force or their next of kin to object to the release of body-worn camera footage regarding the incident, require the Metropolitan Police Department to report out cost and speed of processing data related to FOIA requests for body-worn camera footage, prohibit the redacting likenesses of local, county, state, or federal government employees acting in their professional capacities other than those acting undercover, clarify the process for MPD notifying the next of kin before releasing footage, clarify that the body-worn camera footage of officers directly involved in the use of force be disclosed, require that MPD consult with an organization specializing in grief and trauma on ways to notify the next of kin, and to require that the notification process incorporate the organization's feedback. Another of the bill's subtitles would: 1, amend DC FOIA to clarify that agencies shall not categorically treat law enforcement disciplinary records as falling within any exemption, and 2, require that the Office of Police Complaints do the following: A, establish and maintain a publicly accessible database that contains the information related to certain sustained allegations of misconduct, and B, establish and consult with an advisory group for policies regarding the database and FOIA disclosures of disciplinary records. Upon final reading, Councilmember Allen also offered 2 amendments. The first clarifies that FOIA requests for law enforcement disciplinary records cannot be categorically denied. The second adds a provision requiring the advisory group on public disclosure of disciplinary records consider the standard for determining when records should be provided at no or reduced cost because the request is in the public interest. Councilmember Allen's amendments passed through unanimous consent, and the underlying bill passed on final reading by unanimous roll call. The report of the Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety including its draft of the bill, Councilmember Allen's first-degree amendment, and the enrolled version are in Dropbox for your review. Next is the organization of the 25th DC Council period. On this past Tuesday, the DC Council adopted its rules for Council Period 25. BEGA is now under the scope of the newly formed Committee on Executive Administration and Labor, consisting of Councilmember Bonds, who is the chair, Councilmember Furman, Councilmember Lewis George, Councilmember McDuffie, Councilmember Mendelson, and Councilmember Trayon White. Chairman Mendelson is a voting member of all committees and subcommittees and may be counted for purposes of quorum, but shall not increase the quorum requirement. Also, Chairman Mendelson offered an amendment to the rules to clarify that virtual remote meetings must comply with not just the council's internal open meetings rules, but also the Open Meetings Act. This amendment was adopted in bank with the underlying resolution. The roll call vote was 12-1. The final printed rules will appear as an attachment to the final enrolled version of Resolution 25-1 as introduced version is in Dropbox. Next is the National Conference of Commissioners on Uniform State Laws, or ULC, Model Public Meetings During Emergencies Act. The Model Public Meetings During Emergencies Act received final approval from the ULC Style Committee on December 5th, 2022. The national enactment materials, including the recommendation for adoption and a summary of the statute and the statute itself, are in Dropbox. Redaction of personal information from public records. The ULC Study Committee on Redaction of Personal Information from Public Records will meet again on January 30th, 2023. The committee is considering the feasibility and scope of a possible uniform act. The next is Michigan IT policy. Last year's advisory opinion on text messages citing a new Michigan statute that required the state's Department of Technology Management of Budget, DTMB, to promulgate a directive about instant messaging applications that do not retain content that could qualify as a public record. DTMB has now issued a technical standard on the acceptable use of information technology that prohibits state employees or contractors from using any app, software, or other technology on an electronic device that prevents it from maintaining or preserving a public record as required by law. The public law and the technical standard are in Dropbox. The relevant directive is on page 2 and 3 of the technical standards. Protection of federal judges' privacy. I previously reported on the Daniel Andrel Judicial Security and Privacy Act of 2021. This language is now law as subtitle B of Title LIX of Division D of Public Law 117-263. It passed the House of Representatives on December 8th and the Senate on December 6th, and the President signed it on December 23rd. The enrolled version is in Dropbox. The Daniel Andrel Judicial Security and Privacy Act of 2022 appears on pages 1064 through 75. And the last item in this section is the issuance of Memorandum M-23-07, update to transition of electronic records. On December 23rd, 2022, the Director of the Office of Management and Budget and the Acting Archivist of the United States National Archives and Records Administration, or NARA, issued a memorandum to update the heads of federal government, executive departments, and agencies to transition to electronic records. This update was issued for delays of implementing Memorandum M-19-21 transition to electronic records due to COVID-19 pandemic. The update memorandum lists the following key dates and requirements for the federal government's move to a fully electronic environment where appropriate. On June 30th, 2024, federal agencies must manage all permanent records in an electronic format. After June 30th, 2024, federal agencies must transfer all permanent records in an electronic format and with appropriate metadata. On June 30th, 2024, federal agencies must manage all temporary records in electronic format and store them in commercial record storage facilities. After June 30th, 2024, NARA will no longer accept transfers of permanent or temporary records in analog formats and will only accept records in electronic format with appropriate metadata. No later than December 31st, 2023 and June 30th, 2024, respectively, NARA will issue record management regulations and guidance to support federal agencies' transition to fully electronic record keeping. No later than December 31st, 2021, NARA will establish electronic records management ERM standards and requirements for federal agencies procuring ERM solutions and services. According to the district's archivist, the district government is moving towards a fully electronic environment, which includes a digital preservation infrastructure to retain electronic records. Copies of the memoranda are in Dropbox for your review, and OOG will continue to monitor this in all legislation. The last item in my report are administrative matters. First is the BEGA 2030 15th Street Northwest relocation. On December 14th, 2022, December 19th, 2022, and January 4th, 2023, I, along with Director Cooks, Chief of Staff Mitchell, and Administrative Officer Dow, met with the Department of General Services to discuss the progress of the agency's relocation to its new facility at 1030 15th Street Northwest. The first meeting was to visit furniture vendors to select the office furniture. The second and third meetings were to discuss the furniture choices and IT infrastructure, respectively. We plan to meet again on Friday, January 5th, 2023. The target date for completion of the project is still August 2023. And the last item is the new Office of Open Government Attorney. I am pleased to announce that Anthony Skirbo began working with the OOG as an attorney advisor on December 5th, 2022. Attorney Skirbo is a graduate of the University of District of Columbia David A. Clark School of Law. In the summer of 2019, during law school, he served with the Office of Open Government as a Roth Fellow. Since joining the DC Bar, he has worked at the Office of the Attorney General as a pro bono attorney and the DC Council as a legislative director. He lives in the district and is a proud Army veteran. He is very happy to have returned to OOG as an attorney and looks forward to supporting BEGA and serving the citizens and government of the District of Columbia. This concludes the Office of Open Government's January 5th, 2023 report. I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have at this time.
Thank you, Director Allen. Are there any questions for Director Allen? No questions? Okay, I also will welcome Mr. Skirbo back to BEGA. It's good to see him back. The next item on our agenda is a report from the Office of Government Ethics. Also appearing via WebEx is Director Ashley Cooks. Director Cooks, please proceed.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Hutcheson and members of the board. I'm Ashley Cooks, the Director of Government Ethics. I'm pleased to present this report on the activities of the Office of Government Ethics, OGE. First is an update on the status of OGE's operations. The information reported today regarding OGE's cases will not reflect any status changes that may occur as a result of actions taken by the board during today's meeting. First are open investigations by status. We have 51 matters that are open, 2 matters that are open pending negotiations, 1 matter open for a show cause hearing for a grand total of 54 open investigations. We don't have any open undocketed matters. Next are pending state investigations by status. We have 27 matters that are closed pending collection, 5 matters that are stayed pending DC Superior Court case, 6 matters stayed for OAG False Claims Act case, 5 matters stayed for OIG investigation, and 1 matter stayed for U.S. District Court case, for a grand total of 44 pending and stayed investigations. For regulatory matters by status, we have 27 matters that are closed pending collection, 5 matters that are open, for a grand total of 32 matters. Again, we currently have 54 open investigations and 17 matters that are stayed. The number of open preliminary and formal investigations includes 6 new matters. The investigative team resolved 8 investigations since the board last met. This total does not reflect the number of complaints that were dismissed for a lack of jurisdiction. The quarterly complaint report for the first quarter of fiscal year 2023 is in progress and will be posted within the next week. Next is an update on training and outreach. First is professional development training attended by staff. During the month of December, General Counsel Raj, Senior Attorney Tran, Attorney Advisors Jones and Eccles, Chairperson Hutcheson, and I attended the 44th Annual Conference of the Council on Governmental Ethics Laws, COGL, which took place in Montreal, Canada on December 4th through the 7th. Some of the most interesting substantive sessions were pay-to-play laws, development, trends, and enforcement, but I'm an advocate, not a lobbyist, regulating lobbying by the nonprofit community, the gift that keeps on giving, regulating cash, coffee, and contracts, and the standard lobbying update, ethics update, and enforcement update. Some of the other sessions gave our attorneys a chance to refine public speaking skills for presentations. These included the training and outreach roundtable, mastering public speaking, and adults in the room, strategies to keep your compliance audience engaged. OGE staff left COGL encouraged and interested in presenting at next year's conference. Several OGE staff members completed the mandatory DC government cybersecurity training course. The training courses are E-Place Phishing Training, Cybersecurity Essentials Series, Working Remotely, and Security Awareness Fundamentals. Program Specialist Stan Kosick completed an online training with the Office of the Chief Technology Officer and the Data Science Team entitled SQL for Data Analysis. Auditor Emmanuel Tajuba completed the following trainings: preparing and implementing a business plan, developing an effective business case, knowing when to take strategic risk, and managing with the cost control mindset. Investigator Ronald Cook completed the following training courses: establishing effective virtual teams, confronting workplace conflict, leading through inspiration, leading by motivating, and influencing through positive leadership. Lastly, Investigator Ileana Corrales completed how to successfully make the transition to supervisor, which was hosted by SkillPath. Next is an update on trainings conducted by staff. Since the December board meeting, OGE conducted 2 trainings, which included the December monthly ethics training and the second of 2 ethics trainings for the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development, DMPED. Supervisory Attorney Stuart Mitchell completed a schedule for 2023 ethics trainings. It is available in the Dropbox. Upcoming trainings include the January monthly ethics training, the quarterly boards and commissions training, and our next Ethics Council Brown Bag session on Monday, January 30th. The topic will be the latest advisory opinions and dispositions. During December, 16 employees completed our online ethics training via PeopleSoft. Since the launch of the Learning Management System in April 2022, 365 employees have registered and completed training modules. In December, there was an increase in the number of advisory neighborhood commissioners who completed training using the on-demand session BGA 920 Advisory Neighborhood Commissioners Ethics Training. We continue to meet with our LRN program manager to discuss ways to optimize the system and increase employee registration. Next is outreach. OGE and OOG continue to meet with the Office of the Chief Technology Officer's website development staff to coordinate the BEGA website refresh. We are currently working on changes to the website's design so that information is readily available with minimal search efforts. We submitted an updated sitemap of the website in early October, and approved the mock-up of the website design. Octo has imaged our current website, and we are currently working on language and images for each new web page. Next is the BEGA newsletter. On December 16th, OGE published Volume 7, Issue 6 of its newsletter, Ethically Speaking. This issue contains ethics information regarding the holiday season, upcoming events, information on the House of Representatives Judiciary Committee's recent hearing, and state and local ethics matters, such as the Alabama Attorney General's lawsuit against the state's Ethics Commission for the position that the commission has no responsibility to disclose exculpatory information to individuals under investigation. The newsletter also contained a Meet the Team section, which introduced the OGE attorneys and provided insight into their professional and personal preferences. A copy was placed in the Dropbox for your review. Next is an update on advisory opinions and advice. First, informal advice. OGE's legal staff provided advice for approximately 25 ethics inquiries, which is 16 less than the 41 reported at the last board meeting. This number does not include responses we have provided to questions regarding the lobbyist and FDSE filing systems. OGE has not issued any formal advisory opinions since the board last met. Next is an update on the annual best practices report. On December 29, 2022, BEGA transmitted its annual best practices report to the council and the office of the mayor per DC Official Code Section 1-1162.02B. The report highlights the activities of OGE and OOG and provides recommendations for actions to be taken by the mayor and or the council to further strengthen the district's public integrity and transparency laws. Regarding ethics, the report provides an assessment of the ethical guidelines and requirements for the public employees and officials, including a synopsis of the outside employment and private representation rule and associated negotiated dispositions. It also includes a discussion of the jurisdictional overlap between BEGA, the Office of the Inspector General, and the Office of the Attorney General, information on issues with the current nepotism regulation, and information on the annual ethics training requirement adopted by other jurisdictions. The ethics recommendation consists of the passage of the Comprehensive Code of Conduct, which would, number one, streamline the financial disclosure reporting system to use a bright line salary threshold for determining filers. 2, increase the limits under the gifts rule. 3, implement restrictions on providing professional services for compensation. 4, add an outside employment notification requirement for financial disclosure statement filers. And 5, include language to clarify the provisions of the nepotism statute. Next is an update on legislation. Bill 24-0706, Board of Ethics and Government Accountability Delinquent Debt Recovery Amendment Act of 2022. On December 21st, the 30-day congressional review ended, and the act was assigned DC Law number 24-215. This law allows BEGA to discretionarily transfer delinquent debts associated with settlements and judgment for Ethics and Open Meetings Act violations to the district's central collection unit, and for the funds collected on BEGA's behalf to be deposited into the Ethics Fund or OMA Fund instead of the general fund. A copy of the congressional review notice was placed in the Dropbox for your review. Next is an update on OGE administrative matters. First is OGE staffing. OGE's auditor's position became vacant on this past Monday, and the vacancy announcement will be posted on DCHR's website. After reviewing resumes and interviewing candidates, OGE has selected a candidate to fill its attorney advisor vacancy. The administrative team is in the process of interviewing candidates for the program support assistant vacancy. Our HR specialist will begin the certification process for the supervisory investigator position with the goal of posting the vacancy announcement this month. Next is an update on office relocation. Our office relocation is still underway. Excuse me. Our office relocation is still underway. We continue our weekly meetings with the Department of General Services and the project management team to discuss the build out of the space, furniture, and finishes. We recently visited the showrooms of 3 furniture vendors that provided displays of office and conference room furniture. We ultimately chose furniture that is sufficient for our daily needs and budget. Davis Construction has been chosen as the firm to complete the build out. The proposed move-in date remains July 2023. Next is an update on financial disclosure statement, FDS. On October 14th, the FDS team sent notices to all DC council members reminding them of their biannual financial disclosure statement, which was due on November 15th. To date, all council members have filed their November financial disclosure statements. The FDS team is gearing up for the 2023 financial disclosure period. And the last update is on lobbying registration and reporting, LRR. The calendar year 2023 registrations and 2022 quarter 4 activity reports are due Tuesday, January 17th, 2023.
Oh, okay.
On December 29th, the LRR team sent a reminder notice to 550 active lobbyists and their clients in order to assist with the understanding that the lobbying laws and e-filing system, Attorney Echols and Program Specialist Kosick will conduct an introduction to lobbying laws in DC and how to file training on January 11th. Thank you. This concludes the Office of Government Ethics January 5th, 2023 report. My apologies to the board. I'm in a different office today because of the construction noise next door. So my apologies for the interruptions.
Thank you, Director Cooks. No problem. I also have construction noise around me. I haven't heard it recently. I think they took a break for lunch, but hopefully they'll won't come back before we're done with our meeting. Are there any questions for Director Cooks?
Just a comment. I didn't realize we had such a poet in our midst, Director. I really enjoyed the piece you did in the newsletter. And as they say, the best way to teach people is to entertain them first. And I think you did a nice job with that. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
And I'd also like to commend the office, both offices, on the work done on the best practices report, and thank everyone who had any input into pulling that together. Thank you. Great job. If there are no other questions, the next item on our agenda is public comments. The public was invited to submit comments in writing by 11 a.m. today, and no comments were received for this meeting. The executives or closed session is next. This agenda item is for a closed session to discuss ongoing confidential investigations pursuant to DC Official Code Section 2-575B14, to consult with an attorney to obtain legal advice and to preserve the attorney-client privilege between an attorney and a public body pursuant to DC Official Code Section 2-575B4A, to discuss personnel matters, including the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, performance evaluation, compensation, discipline, demotion, removal, or resignation of government appointees, employees, or officials pursuant to DC Official Code Section 2-575B10, to deliberate on a decision in which the Ethics Board will exercise quasi-judicial functions pursuant to DC Official Code Section 2-575B13, and to discuss contract negotiation strategies pursuant to DC Official Code Section 2-575B2. May I have a motion to enter into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Great. It's been moved and seconded that the board enter into executive session. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. So board members, please log out of this session and log into the WebEx for the executive session. Once the executive session concludes, we will return to this WebEx to report on any matters decided to finish any other business and to adjourn the meeting. So let's go to the executive session. I'm just looking to see if, okay, everyone's here, great. All right, the time is now 12:51 p.m. and we are back on the record. During our executive session, the board approved a negotiated disposition in matter 22-0078-P in Ray J. Smith. And that was the only item that we discussed and approved during the executive session. So this concludes the meeting for January of the DC Board of Ethics and Government Accountability. Our next meeting will be held remotely via WebEx on Thursday, February the 2nd, 2023 at 12 noon. Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.